Here she is, Illinois State Comptroller Judy Baar Topinka.
Thank you so much. That was a wonderful introduction, you know, because you didn't go into my dates of how long I've been serving, but suffice to say that the Department of Historic Preservations has made me a state landmark. So, you know, and the other thing that's also a little unnerving, when I was in the Senate, there was one of my Democratic colleagues, and you know, mostly we get along, but this one was kind of a funny type of guy. And he noted that in the Blue Book, which has our pictures and it has little biographies and things of this sort, that there had been a typographical error. Or at least he said it wasn't a typographical error, but it had me serving with Abraham Lincoln. So, you know, I've contacted Steven Spielberg to see if I get any royalties, but maybe something for the state. You know, but I do thank you. You still, I'm the voice of doom and gloom for the state of Illinois because I have to pay the bills. And please, if you would, if you have any constituents who think that somehow or other that the Office of Comptroller manipulates airplanes, I am not the Director of Aviation. I'm not the Air Traffic Controller. That's what they usually hear, and they think I have an Air Force. It's, no, no, no. My family's Army, so we don't do that. All you Army folk. And I would note, my son is in the Army right now, and he's got about a year left, and he will have done 20 years. So, I got to see if I could shag him back to Illinois. Maybe put him with George Strauss' law firm or something like that. You know, that would be very, very good. Now, you know, because I am the voice of doom and gloom, and I feel like I come here like your friendly neighborhood funeral director with the stories of the state and its financial condition, you know, you can still escape. You've got a chance to run out the door before it starts. If you stick it out, God love you, because I think we're all going to have to stick it out, and especially now as the federal government continues to be absurd and stupid and silly, and as a result, we might have that sequester thing come down on us Friday, which will really just set us back in the state of Illinois something fierce. As if we already didn't have troubles of our own, they've managed to do even more. So, you know, just keep an eye out on that. Talk to your congressman, tell him to repeal it. This is not going to work. Be careful in what you cut. Don't use a meat axe. Be careful. You got to keep cutting because we have so much waste in government. We always do. But here in the state of Illinois, we could close down the state, literally close it down. We could sell off all our assets, and we still would not have enough to cover our debts. That's how bad it is. So anyway, I do thank you for the invitation, Dawn. That was really neat because watchdog I am. I'm always looking for places to combine, to cut, to get rid of, to see if we can do programs that don't cost us anything but save us money. It's been a constant mantra. I mean, even when I was in the House and the Senate, and bills would come up, and they called me boring because I would get up with such crazy comments as, okay, so who's going to pay for it? And it was like, boo, his, sit down, you know, that kind of thing. Well, you know, here we are. It took a while to get here, but the day of reckoning is pretty much upon us. And I don't, you know, be careful when you go home. I need all the voters I can get when I run again, so please be careful in the snow. I got to get that out. And certainly to let you know what's happening here, but to get anybody organized like this and to be able to get 11 different chambers together and all you mayors together, Dawn, that is remarkable. This is a major job of just trying to get people organized in one way or another to go forward, get things done, and here you've got them all. This is really outstanding. How about applause for Dawn, because she really did a great job. I do thank our chambers and all of our elected officials who are here because really and truly times are tough, and it's very tough to just keep our businesses here in order, afloat, and so on. And the fact that the chambers are there, you know, as a bulwark, we really appreciate what you do. And I appreciate what you do because if you keep the businesses going, then money comes into the state treasury. I get to pay bills because that's my predominating position. I am supposed to pay bills, and I get money from the state treasurer when he has it, and then you know, I get it. And yet, You know, I kind of wonder where the money is, and then I'll read some crazy story about some grant that's been given close to $1 million, and I keep saying, where did that come from? You know, I mean, I can't come up with $1 million. Where did that come from? So I think we need to talk to our reps, our senators, to say, hey, no spending on new programs, because we have not paid for our old programs. And it still sticks. This is just an old mantra, but you don't spend what you don't have. I mean, what is not to understand about this? And now we have, and not, of course, this would not apply, I'm sure, to any of your municipalities and your mayors and council people here and so on. But now we have our locals doing what the federal government has done, what the state has done, and that is they're borrowing. If they've got the chance to borrow, they're borrowing, and they're borrowing to pay bills. You don't borrow to pay bills. You borrow long-term for roads and bridges and things that you can prorate over a long period of time. But you don't borrow to pay bills. You wouldn't probably do it personally. If you are doing it personally, I will do some financial counseling with you afterward, you know. It's just you'll be in much of a hole as the rest of us will be. So government has just got to learn to live within its means. That's an old story. But until we get it up here and keep it up here and work accordingly, we're all going to be in trouble. You know, it's just rough. So I do applaud your work, and hopefully we'll be able to make things happen and hold things together. I always laugh, and this is not trying to be arrogant, but our office is such because we do pay the bills, and we try to parcel out what we can, especially you know, for our non-for-profits, who I have just moved up to first-time payment after we get through with our payments that we have to do by law, because they have no options, and I'm not about to throw people on the street. Because, you know, a civilization is, and a political system, and all of this can be evaluated by history for how it takes care of its most vulnerable members. The old, the sick, the weak, all those folks who can't take care of themselves. That's when you need government. I don't know how much we need government outside of that, but that's when you absolutely need government. So by law, I have to pay our good folks who have loaned us money over the years, and you know, we are deep in debt to them. Well, I have to pay them first, and then I have to do payroll. But after that, we put our non-for-profits up. And I'm really glad I've got the subjective ability to be able to move people around, because that way I can fill a hole in the dike when it comes up. And I don't have to run around asking permission. I can just fill the hole, give as much as we can. Now, as I've told them, and I've told everybody else to whom we owe money, which is just about everybody, you know, which is, folks, you know, I may not be able to get you everything that you are owed, but if you're having trouble and you're holding by a thread, please call our office. One of the good things you'll find is we don't have voicemail, so you'll talk to a human being. Please do not hang up. It is a state number, because we have people who think they may be a residence or something, because they're not used to real people talking to you on the phone. But anyway, let us know if you're having a problem, because we'll try and address that problem and try and get you some money. Again, it may not be all that we owe you, but we'll try and get you over the hump. Now, I noticed that the Sun-Times this morning, where the Tribune, I can't remember which, because I just read them all and it becomes a blur, but it said, you know, that this is really nice that we do this, that we move our trouble spots up to the top and pay them, or try to pay them, or give them something. But then, of course, for every one we move up, we have to move somebody down, because there's just so much in this pie. And as they pointed out, it's not a really good way to run a business, and it isn't. If you did that with your business, I think you would be, you'd have a lot of noise. But it's the only thing I can do to try and make sure we keep everybody in business and everybody taken care of who needs to be taken care of. But needless to say, if someone gets out of line, it's like, don't lie to me, because chances are I will be subjective again, you know, and you will not necessarily go to the top of the heap. So, you know, here we sit. Now, you have to give you somewhat of the scope of our challenges. I mean, this is when I really get to be the funeral director, okay? It's really horrible. I checked on our numbers this morning, and today we have 194,086 unpaid bills at the Comptroller's office. Okay, so when you're paying your bills and so on, just know my stack is really big, all right? That adds up, and it has gone up. I can tell as I do these speeches, the numbers keep going up, so it's not getting any better. That all adds up to about $7.5 billion with a B, all right? Now, we don't have all the bills that have come to the state. They come to the various agencies, and they don't tell us. So all we can do right now until we get a system in place to get a duplicate copy or something, our agencies have bills that they're holding on to mainly because of trying to make sure that they have something to pay and we have something to pay and so on. And of course, if they gave us all their bills at one time, we would be inundated. But they hold on to them, and also as long as they hold on to them, we don't have to pay interest on those. When they come to my office, we fall under the Prompt Payment Penalty Act, and we wind up paying 12% a year in terms of interest. So it gets to be a very expensive proposition when we don't pay. But when you add what they have, well, we're probably talking then well over $10 billion, and that hasn't even talked about pensions yet. I mean, we haven't even gotten to that, which is underfunded to the tune of about $97 billion. And as we sit here, it will cost us for today another $17 million into our pension fund. So that is growing and growing and growing. And that, and plus Medicaid, which continues to grow and grow and grow, is roughly 20% of our budget and climbing. And if we don't do something about these and try and curtail some of what goes on here, at least slow them up, they will take up such a part of our budget that there will be no budget left for things like schools and health care and bridges and roads and all of these things that we need to do. I mean, just the bridges alone in this state make me so nervous because there's around 600 of them that are considered substandard. So when you stop your car, stop before the bridge or after the bridge. All right, that's kind of what I always do, and preferably if you're going over a river, before or after. All right, because I remember what happened in Minnesota, and it just makes me very, very nervous all the way around. Now the number is actually about the same as 2 years ago at this same time, and which is incredible since we've had 2 years since we had that wonderful income tax increase that came to us in a veto session when no one knew it was coming, and bingo bango, there was 2 percentage points more, which I'm sure you're feeling these days, you know, considering that the payroll plan that we have from the federal government is now kicking in, and it's caused people to stay home and, you know, not go to work. What I think is absolutely a toot is, okay, we've now got 5% income tax with the 2% added on. That, by the way, is supposed to be a temporary tax. Whether that will remain temporary, I cannot tell you, but I will tell you that as budgets have been developed in the state of Illinois, that temporary tax has been swept in and used as if it were permanent. So when it's time in 2 years and that temporary tax is supposed to go away, we'll see how the legislature feels about that. Suffice to say, too, that of that temporary tax, which we thought was going to go to pay unpaid bills, we have not gotten a lick. Nothing. Nothing has gone to pay unpaid bills. It's gone into Medicaid, it's gone into pensions. So all of that has not been a help to us at all. The pension situation now, by the way, is the worst in the nation. We have something that we can hold up and say we are first, because we are last. We're 50 out of 50. We even bumped California, which was having trouble. No, California's ahead of us now. So now we have $97 billion that were in the red, and as I said, we're growing at 17 million a day. So it's getting pretty serious. The legislature is playing with a number of different bills. It's my understanding that today and tomorrow might be days that the legislature is going to talk about what they're going to do with the pension funds, because there's all these bills and ideas floating around. And after what looked like an 8 or 9 hour marathon yesterday that was all about guns, maybe they'll get off of guns for a change and start worrying about about the pensions. That's because everything hinges on the pension situation, everything. So anything that we do may or may not work because it will all hinge on whether or not we can pay for our pensions. Now, on top of it all, as if we didn't have enough already, Standard & Poor's just lowered our bond rating again. And when I say again, I mean again, because if you're keeping score, the 3 credit rating companies together have now lowered our credit rating 12 times in 4 years. All right, that's pretty darn good. I mean, you're taking a whack almost every single year here now. And, you know, I appreciated when you introduced me and, you know, all the wonderful things and so on. I really wish I would have beaten Blagojevich. We wouldn't have this problem, all right? We would have had some problem, but it wouldn't have been like this. I did not think that any one person could do that much damage to the state of Illinois, that we could ride it out. But no, he did it. He has made me a liar. Because he took money out of that pension fund and spent it, and it was gone, and then there were pension holidays, and we didn't contribute, and so on. And that's what gets us there. Then we get borrowing so we can pay the bill. Now, as I told the folks, about a month ago when I got to testify, when they got all excited about borrowing $4 billion to pay again for pensions. And I said, folks, you have not fixed the underlying system of how pensions work in this state, how they're funded, and so on. Which means, if you borrow, in a year and a half, we will be back to where we were, doing it incorrectly, doing what we're doing now, but now you'll be $4 billion in the hole more, and it's going to cost me $128 million in interest that we didn't have going in. So please, do not borrow. Stop the borrowing. That's what keeps getting us into this, and the overspending. It just drives me crazy. But, you know, that's, I said, I'm boring. What can I say? So, now our bond agencies have threatened to downgrade us again if we don't address this mess. And we will become the equivalent of Greece, and we will be at junk bond status. For a state that has so much going for it, like Illinois, size and the variety of potential businesses, the variety of businesses that are here, the manufacturing, the transportation, I mean, all these things that we have, for us to go into junk bond status, it would be downright embarrassing. Not to mention, it would really be serious for us in terms of who's going to buy our bonds. When we do have to borrow, who's going to pick them up? Now, just about a month ago, the governor decided that you know, he was going to try and get some infrastructure money, and again, I have no problem with long-term loans. But he tried to get somebody, anybody, to buy our treasuries. But the interest payments were so high because we were considered so risky that he had to withdraw the proposal because it just would have sunk us. So here we sit. Nobody even wants to buy our bonds unless they sock it to us in a way that would just cost us so doggone money. So the clock is ticking, and it's going to come at no surprise to this crowd that uncertainty kills business. You know, it's not only that it's bad because it's bad, but the thought that it's bad and it's staying bad and it's not getting fixed. The lack of predictability, the lack of certainty of what's going to happen makes us an even riskier prospect in terms of sales of bonds or just our normal fiscal situation. That's what's going on nationally as well, while they play with this sequester stuff, why we go from one crisis to another. Who in their right mind wants to do business with any of us, be it America, be it Illinois, or some of our communities? I mean, we're just too risky in terms of how we deal with our finances. And it doesn't have to be that way, okay? Again, anytime we can, you know, cut superfluous or anachronistic things that we have in our government, let's get rid of it. Let's tighten things up. For instance, the treasurer and I, and the treasurer and controller before me, and the treasurer and the controller before them have all said, let us combine these two offices because we have about a 20% duplication in those two offices. We used to be one office, so we were called the auditor, but then a gentleman who was the auditor ran off with money, not as much as the controller of Dixon, but he did a pretty good job. Pretty good job. And so as a result, the Constitutional Convention split the two offices to allegedly do oversight one to another. Well, now we have more oversights than we know what to do with. We could bring those offices back together, and we would save $12 million a year. Just a duplication. That's just money we throw down the black hole. That's stupid. We could do things with $12 million. I'm sure there's people in this room who, if they had access to $12 million, could find something really good and productive to do with it. So we're still working on that. We do have a bill. It's passed through the Senate. Unfortunately, it's in the House, and it has not even been assigned to a committee. So it's floating around out there. I'll let you kind of figure out why that's happening. You know, we'll just kind of let that sit for a bit. So, you know, I worry about the businesses you represent, the small business owners. I mean, are they going to set up shop here? You have wonderful amenities in this area. You've got everything going for you. But if the state sounds risky, are they going to come? Are they going to stay? You have a job cut out for you, as I think our legislature does too. And the legislature knows that there are some very hard votes that have to be taken this time. Some of these votes could cost you elective office. I mean, that's just a fact of life. But you know what? We don't get elected to hold offices forever. And we are supposed to be there like statesmen and stateswomen to come up with something for the good of the order. And this is what it's all about. Those hard votes have to be faced up to. The state has to be, the state's fiscal situation has to be faced up to. We got to do it. And this is the year to do it because really and truly the chickens have come home to roost. And you know, we got to start doing something. The old cat, kick the can down the road. I think we run out of road. So, you know, not to mention that that can is awfully dated. So we're going to have to face up to it and make it happen. Now, where do we go from here? This is the small little bright perky spot of my speech, you know, that I'm supposed to leave you feeling good after you got here and so on. First and foremost, you know, we have to address our two monsters, pensions and Medicaid, get that into order. We're going to have to see what our state budget looks like and try and help the governor as he tries to put it together so that we're not spending money needlessly, foolishly, because you know we're going into yet another political season, and money has a tendency to start being found in strange places and starts it starts flowing. And I want to make sure it flows judiciously and not because it just makes somebody look good going into an election cycle. I think the quicker that we sort out our problems here, the better off we're going to be. And my feeling always is this. It's kind of like that old car commercial. You either pay now or you pay later. And sometimes it's cheaper to pay up front, swallow hard, get it done, and you'll be better off in the long run. Don't let it fester. Right? So we've implemented efficiencies, for instance, in our office that now have allowed us, by the way, without having to lay off anybody, all right, to bring our head count lower than it's ever been. Our funding is at 1998 levels, so it can be done. We just don't rehire if somebody leaves, unless it's some vital, earth-shaking job that we absolutely have to have. But we've been able to do it. We've been able to do it negotiating with reunions, and all is well. So it can be done. But you gotta take some time with it. You can't come at things with the meat axe because you're too lazy to try and figure it out line by line. But it can be done. Finally, we need to get government off the back of our businesses. I mean, this is another old mantra, all right? I mean, when you constantly come up with different ways of making businesses go through hoops, and then you tax them, and, you know, I mean, yeah, the state is considered a low taxing state, but I know when I look at my tax bill, and I have 16 taxing bodies on there, I know why I'm paying high taxes. So I would suggest that maybe we all look and see, do we really need 4 mosquito abatement districts in Cook County? I mean, I think the mosquitoes are pretty uniform, and they could probably be run by a city or a county. I mean, things like that. We've got that all over the state. Let's tuck in our horns and try and consolidate and make things work for us and not just go with, well, it's always been done that way. Well, that's why we're in trouble. It's always been done that way. and it's time to really pay attention. And I'll tell you, as the fiscal officer, not that they ever ask me my opinion or the treasurer's opinion, when they work on budgets, I think this is a toot. In any private business, you would always bring your fiscal officers into the discussion. We are not invited, okay? And I can even say that when George Ryan was governor, he kicked me out of his office because I was invited once. He didn't like what I had to say and kicked me out. So, you know, that's what my advice is oftentimes worth to some of these folks. We've got our work cut out for us, I think, in making the case that we can grow our economy too if we get some of these over-regulations that we have out here for small business and let business thrive and try and pay our bills and get rid of that uncertainty. We can start paying our way out of this because businesses will thrive. And when businesses thrive, our people are happier, they get all their services and their needs, and I get tax dollars so I can pay for things and I can write checks that are worthy. I think this job probably was a lot of fun in the past because I used to write checks like there was no tomorrow. But I can't write checks like that. I don't want to write checks like that. I want our dollars to count. You know, you all work very hard for your money. I work very hard for my money. And I just don't like to see it wasted. And we're always going to be on top of it because I'm very fussy about that kind of stuff. So just know it's there. I think as business owners, you know when you're drowning in debt and interest payments. And you also know that when you're in those situations, you should never start applying for more credit. The same rule applies to the state. So instead of borrowing, we have to create the conditions for our businesses to grow. And there are ways to do that. I mean, you know, sometimes when we look at our agencies and they just run loose, and I don't know where they get some of their ideas, but I don't know, I think they get a hot flash here or there, and it's always a problem. So we have to kind of work with them and show them why some of these things don't work, just get in our way, and really accomplish nothing. So I think if you take that approach, we ultimately return our state to a responsible payment cycle. Because right now, for businesses, we're about 6 months in arrears. I haven't made it to Christmas yet. So see, I celebrate holidays when you don't. I celebrate holidays when we're able to pay our bills. We've not made it to Christmas yet. So I've got a few fa-la-la-la-las ahead of me here in the high hopes that we'll be able to pay our bills. But we need much needed relief on our vendors and our taxpayers because they can't take any more taxes. They really can't. We have already taxed our people to death. So it's going to have to come from somewhere else, and that's going to have to be from efficiencies. So I assure you, it's not just going to happen. We're only going to change the culture in Springfield through organizations like what we have going on here and demanding a different approach. That means talking to your representatives, talking to your senators, talking to your constitutional officers, getting to them when they're not in the middle of whatever they're doing. Get them early on and start getting your position across. Do it face to face. You know, form letters don't do it. I used to get these form letters when I was in the Senate. I will say this, people in the legislature, I mean, we weren't all brilliant, but when you got a form letter and it said dear, and then there was a blank line because they didn't put your name in it, you kind of got the idea. It was a form letter and somebody was telling somebody else what to do, but there wasn't a deep belief in making it happen. So you've got to be personal. That counts with the legislator because they want to get elected. You don't want to get elected. So you've got to talk to people and change the culture and demand a different approach. So I think through meetings like this, to continuing to share information, reaching out you know, to your elected officials, and if you don't really like anything, then doggone it, run yourself. You know, I mean, that's what I did because I got sick of it all, so I ran myself. And you know, every once in a while I kick myself and say, why did you do this, you crazy woman? But, you know, it works, it works. The fact is, I think we can bring change to this state. It's just a matter of going to take some work to do, and there will be some rough sledding here. But I look forward to standing alongside you to make it happen. You know how I talk, you know how I think. That will be consistent, because we're not going to pay for junk. We are going to watch what goes on in this state and make sure that we are on the right track, because I think the state has got a choice here. It can either be a statue or it can be a pigeon. Think about it. I am recommending you to take the pigeon route. Okay? Just think about it. Okay, you'll get it eventually on your way home. It's all right. You know. In fact, I'm sure they're going to ask me to run the Oscars next year. Okay. That having been said, thank you very, very much. I would like to stay and do Q&A and all sorts of other things, but I've got about eight meetings I've got to have ahead of me, and they're all in Springfield. And I've got a plane over at Milwaukee, and I've got to go. If they're flying, if the weather is good. So I thank you very much. Always feel free to call. We do pick up the phone. We want you to call. Thank you so much. God bless you all.
There, George. Go, George. That's for you. I can't get it in there.